Okay. Hi, Tom. Welcome to this Great People interview series.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Friends, we have with us Tom, who started his journey as a junior developer and is now head of services um, at a very reputed company in the UK. So, I would like to pass it on to Tom to introduce himself and his company and what he does.
Hey, great. Thank you very much. Yes, so my name is Tom Barden. I am head of cloud services at a Lincoln-based company called Tended. What we do at Tended is we develop high precision positioning wearable technology with the goal of basically just trying to bring people home safe at the end of the day. The idea is that we can use this technology to help make sure that people stay safe and maintain situational awareness on hazardous work sites, such as the rail industry, maybe infrastructure, building, all that sort of stuff. So that we can help reduce the number of preventable accidents, fatalities, near misses, all that sort of thing in those hazardous industries. And it's really, yeah, it's a really, really exciting place. My role in all of that is as head of cloud services. I oversee basically most of the software side of things we do, so nothing to do with the actual hardware. But I oversee the development of our dashboard web app platform, as well as the supporting infrastructure of all of that, and also a lot of the developer operations, the DevOps stuff that happens at Tended as well. So it's a very varied role, and it's been a huge journey to go from one of a very small team to now a head of. It's something.
Yeah, brilliant. Friends, uh, whoever I talk to around Tom, the people who know Tom, they say Tom Barden is an inspiration. For his age, he's reached from junior developer to managing a department. This is really, really exciting and inspirational. So today we're jumping into this topic of how do you start your journey as a junior developer and head to become something as successful as Tom is. Um, I would like to just give a free platform to Tom to explain his journey of how did you start and what are those right steps you took to become, what you are today. And obviously, along the way, whatever lessons you learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, right. I'm having to cast my mind back now. Probably well, actually, yeah, it's now a full decade. Um, so when I went to university to actually learn to make video games, which is still software development. But that was probably the most important decision actually in getting to where I am now. Not because of video games, but actually because of the people that I met there and the connections you made. So that's probably the first bit of advice I would make is hold on to your connections because they are going to be invaluable. I'll come back up to that a little later though. My journey begins properly actually between the summers of my years at university, where I was lucky enough to be able to get a sort of like a summer intern junior developer position at a London-based B2B SaaS company. And that was phenomenal, actually. That is perhaps the most that I learned throughout my 3 years at uni was during those summers. Not to discount software development university degrees, of course, but actually getting hands-on in the field, learning with people who knew infinitely more than I did, and not just about the technical stuff, but also about their ways of working. How do you operate in this industry? How do you collaborate in this industry? How do you deal with tech support? All this sort of stuff that had never even crossed my mind before. That was huge. So I was lucky enough to get to do 2 summers there. That was great. That was about 2 or 3 months each, with bits of part-time work here and there. And the skills that I picked up there very much formed the basis of what I'm doing today. So after I graduated uni, I went off and I did a bit of freelance sort of VR game development, just because I wanted to, and I was still trying to work out what do I really want to do with myself after university, and still trying to keep an eye out for possible positions as well, because I was conscious of like, right, I'm gonna have to get a real job soon, quite soon. And those connections from university really, well, came in very, very handy. I was lucky enough to hear that one of my course mates, actually a couple of my course mates, were working for this really tiny startup, just a couple of guys in a room, a thing called Tended, and they were making a wristwatch that was kind of like a Fitbit that would like alert you if you fell over. And I thought, great,
Wow.
phenomenal. That sounds like a job. was the first thought, if I'm being entirely honest. But it was great. So I went through, and I was really actually just looking for a QA position. I was kind of just looking for anything to get my foot in the door, because I knew that I had the technical skills to do sort of either like any of the jobs in there, be it the front end development of a website, like even if it's just like a marketing site, or doing the app development. I could try my hand at some of the firmware stuff for actually making the wristwatch itself. I'll come to that a little bit later on. But I did get brought on as a part-time QA, and then 2 days into that position, I went to the CEO, who was only like a couple of years older than me, and I said, "Hey, I see the amount of work that you guys actually have to do. I don't think you yet appreciate how much work there is to do here, because as I'm sure you can relate, and the audience can relate. Building software products is very, very complicated. Building technology products is very complicated. It takes a certain level of audacity, I think, to attempt it at all. Audacity and sort of blissful ignorance, and then you sort of you move forward, so you discover everything, and you solve the challenges as they come up. So that's what we did. I went to the CEO and I said, right, there is a lot more that you need done here. I can see that you've got one guy doing your sort of your QA, your mobile app, your Android app, and also all of your backend stuff. I'm going to help you out and let you know that guy isn't going to be able to do all that forever. Bring me on, and I will write the backend for you. I'll write your automated tests for you as well. That's something that I learned was hugely important during those summers between uni as well. Something that my degree did not touch on that much, but automated testing, absolutely huge. And fortunately, he was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll bring you on full time. And from there, it was really just a case of, the journey just kind of continued. It was sort of a whirlwind for a while. That first product that Tended attempted, we called it the Protect. That was a consumer focus, so it was just going to the general market. Ultimately, that didn't pan out, as I think happens with a lot of startups. But what happened is over the course of the development lifecycle of that product, we had some big enterprises reach out to us and say, hey, what you're building here actually sounds really interesting. We'd like to maybe try and deploy something similar to like our warehouses and stuff, so they could know that their employees were, being safe. And so my CEO turned around to me and said, okay, we're getting all this opportunity. Can you put together like a small team to build out like what we were calling then the commercial product, which was the beginnings of the web app, the dashboard platform that we use today. And so that was a real turning point for me, because up until I became what we called the lead commercial developer, which I'm not sure is a great title, but that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, commercial developer. It sounds more like I'm a property developer or something, but anyway, that's totally fine. I chose the title. So before that, I had been doing just about everything in terms of product development for the Protect. I had written, of course, the backend. I had done a lot of front-end development, so web apps. I had touched the firmware for the device itself. I think I wrote the initial sort of communication system that displayed images on our like 128 by 32 pixel screen, and that was a huge moment for us when I got to show some like ASCII text. I remember that was huge. But the core of what I'm trying to get across there is I kind of just got stuck in. I did anything and everything to help push the team and the product towards its goals. And so moving into a more solidified role as this lead commercial developer and having to start to grow a team, that was a huge shift, and it certainly came with no small amount of imposter syndrome as well, which I think everybody is going to experience at some point in their career, especially as you go through, as you move up sort of the corporate ladder, as it were, and that I think was hugely important for me, and where I realized where my strengths truly lie. I like to describe myself as a competent developer, but a strong manager. And so
Wow.
I've kind of just been adapting my career to sort of better suit my to suit my strengths, really. Um, you know, I believe that people management, and this is people management generally, not even just for software teams, the entire
Yeah,
thing is an exercise in compassion. And so having those sort of soft skills you hear about, just good communication is absolutely critical. And it's even more important when you're dealing with such technical technical work on the day-to-day. You have to have those soft skills. I think that's something that's being pushed more and more
well,
to junior developers. At least that's what I've heard from recent graduates, as well as at universities and other sort of software houses are pressing the importance of these soft skills more and more and more, because it's huge.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, you know, just with these few minutes of conversation, uh, if I may summarize, there's a lot of learning. I think for me, the number one is you started as an intern because you just wanted to get started. I think doing an internship, getting an opportunity to work is the first lesson from what you just
Mm.
described. The second one is you are okay, you were okay to start with a smaller company, even if it is just two, three people or a very small team. In fact, that gave you more opportunities to learn, which brings us to the third lesson from your journey is you were prepared to do anything and everything. So you did not say, well, I'm a developer, I'm not going to do the testing, and I'm only focused on Android app, so I'm not going to be doing that. You did everything. You got stuck into your firmware for your device. You got stuck into the web app testing. Whatever comes your way, you were ready to do. So that's the third lesson. So first is start with internships. Second, start with a smaller company if possible. It's not a bad idea because you get to learn a lot. Because if you're in a smaller company, you will be given a lots of things to do, which means brings us to the fourth lesson, which is explore yourself in that job by doing different things, and then it reveals to you what is your real strength. And the
You've
fifth
absolutely
area,
nailed it.
and the fifth area is this dealing with your imposter syndrome. And thankfully, just a few days ago, I have recorded a special webinar with Harris Taylor on this very subject of imposter syndrome and you know how do you deal with it and all that, which is so fantastic to now relate to, is that look, somebody who is actually working there, he's saying the same thing. I had to
Yeah.
deal with it. The last point was about soft skills. It is so essential, and I'll hand it back to you again for the further conversation, because I just thought I can't wait till the end of conversation because there's so much to learn. Let me summarize this for the audience, and
Yeah.
then we can move on from here. Yeah, soft skills, and obviously journey from there on, and how having done a lot of things, you became a master of one skill that you thought is right for you, and then yeah, what are the challenges in your current role as head of cloud services?
Mm. Okay. God, yeah, there's so much to go over still, isn't there? So in talking about soft skills, part of the reason that I view soft skills to be so important is that my role, or I see my role, is primarily being the defender of my team. Um, which means I have to be able to have good, strong communication with my team to know what their problems are, how they're feeling, you know. I am very conscious of trying to make sure that I'm protecting them from any external factors, be that within the company or even outside the company, to whatever extent I'm able, just to empower them to do their jobs efficiently. Like,
Yep.
not to get a little bit too cliche, but this is my little family within the business. It is my job to make sure that they are comfortable and happy. And you know, from a business perspective as well, you know, you've got to keep turnover as low as you can because you want to retain that institutional knowledge. Tended runs on institutional knowledge to a degree, right? I think all
Yep.
large businesses do. And so, I mean, a lot of my journey has been sort of just trialing and erroring my way through what are the correct sort of management strategies that work for me and work for the people under me. You know, I remember being, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I'm sat there and someone is talking to me about Scrum, and I'm sat there thinking, why? Why am I ever going to use Scrum? This is so many meetings, this is so much overhead. And then I'm sure there's many other sort of work methodologies for other industries as well that are like somewhat analogous. And then I find myself sort of a year and a half ago, 2 years, thinking, wow, I need a framework to help me manage the team that has grown around me and the workload and the responsibilities that we've got. And so the lesson I learned from that is, okay, look, there is a time and a place for these things. And inevitably, someone's going to try and teach you a lesson a little bit too early for you. If you can take the lesson, do it, is what I would say. But really, you will find these things will come to you as you need them. And just so long as you have listened and you are aware that these solutions out there exist, even if you don't implement them yet, so long as you've got them in your tool belt as potential solutions when these problems do arise for your organization, it's going to save you a lot of time. And so, you know, I implemented Scrum in my team, and it's been wildly successful for us. The team reports very high satisfaction with that sort of workflow, because before it was very, you know, I was struggling through having to have this strange process where I was giving out work to the team in a very piecemeal manner. You know, they finish one thing and they go, Tom, can you give me another thing? I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not sure what the priorities are. I don't even know what's in our backlog. And so, you know, we put in the work to overhaul our ways of working and to arrive at something that works best for us. You know, like, as with a lot of sort of agile methodologies, you don't really tend to do Scrum as written. You probably don't do any sort of work methodology as written. You take it and you adapt it to what works best for the people around you, for the people in your team. And that's exactly what I've done, which again goes back to those soft skills, communication. You have to be able to know and listen to what is working really well for your team. I think one of the lessons that everyone needs to learn at some point is to just let go, to delegate in some way. Even if that's not delegating work, it can be delegating mental load, decisions in a way. You know, I am not the person who is doing a lot of the day-to-day work anymore. I'm managing the work, but I'm not there on the ground writing the code. So if there's a problem with the processes that my developers are having, I need to be able to stop and listen and go, okay, right, I didn't think this was a problem. In my head, I can't see why it is a problem. Just talk it out. And so that's why I make sure I have regular one-to-ones with the team as well. To again, have that structured regular opportunity for that communication to emerge. And yeah, that's really, really useful. Another skill that I've had to develop, and I would love to see more people develop across the world, is how to run an efficient meeting. That is
Wow.
is critical. It's critical because, again, if you end up having certain processes, workflows that require meetings, as a lot of things do, you need to be able to write an agenda, stick to an agenda, and get through everything efficiently. Because at the end of the day, it's not your time being wasted that really matters. It's the time of your team. The people who are actually going to be doing the work that needs to get done. Everything I do comes down to making sure that those people are able to do their jobs as efficiently and as happily as they can.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So, a lot of students listening to this would be, well, obviously in the last year of their software engineering and computer studies. Um, and, by now, they have been told this is a good technology. You should learn that. This is the market demand. You should learn that. Um, and they only sometimes get carried away by somebody's influence, or somebody telling them, oh, it's Python in the market. So, and everybody starts learning Python. And so, two questions, these are kind of rapid fire questions, if you like. Uh, what's the technology being used for your development? I know it's a web app, it's mobile app as well, and also for the firmware. And yeah, and a follow-up question would be, what would be your advice? What technology or programming language students should learn? Well, especially if they're looking to do some internship or remote job for the companies in the UK.
Mm. So to answer the first question, the technology that my teams primarily use, it'll be things like we write a lot of Angular. We use the Angular framework for our web app. Our backend is primarily written using PHP, which may be divisive among some of the audience. But we also use Python for a lot of our sort of just like our scripting and our tooling. And then we use, I think, C++ now on the firmware, though I haven't touched that for quite some time. In terms of what I would recommend people learn, I think it doesn't matter what you learn, so long as you learn something. I mean, I started out just learning JavaScript. JavaScript, for those in the industry, it's not a particularly great language. It has a lot of problems, but it taught me all the fundamentals about how to think as a developer. So I started with that, and that gave me a lot of the ground level principles. And then C# is what I moved on to next, which is a bit more of a comprehensive, a bit more of an opinionated language, which is great. And I learned a lot more from that as well, sort of getting into more like object-oriented ways of programming. That was tied a lot to sort of the game development stuff I was doing early on as well. And then from there, the language doesn't really matter, I find. If there's a job that wants you to write in Java, you will learn to write Java on the job. It's totally fine. If they want you to write C#, if they want you to write PHP, a lot of it is just syntax. You will find out the quirks of the language as you go. But no, it's all about just having the skills to just get stuff done. That's the most important part.
It's your logic, whether you are able to do and enjoy programming. Are you getting the output? And to a lot of these software developers or software engineers who are coming out of their colleges, I would just say that ask yourself, are you a good programmer? Is that really what you are? And if you're not, then do not necessarily follow the programming path, because there are other options. You can get into non-programming IT roles, like testing, for example. There could be networking is another area to go into, and third is digital marketing. Is again a lot of technology is involved in SEO and other stuff and algorithms. But then these are kind of semi-technical roles. If you don't find yourself a good programmer, don't go in there, because bad programmer means, really, really a red signal for you in the industry, because you might crack the first job, but if you can't excel, as Tom said, if you can't do the job, you can't get it done, then regardless of whichever language, it's not for you. So I think it's very important to recognize who you are and don't just push yourself into an area where you're not comfortable. There are other options. Unfortunately, it's, people are all following a track, or as they say, it's just people are just running on one track. And if it's not for you, you probably have to change the track. And so sorry, guys, if I'm giving you a completely different advice. But yeah, if you find that, oh, I enjoy programming, and if somebody gives me a task and Tom will probably elaborate this. If he gives the task to one of his programmers, if you are a person that you can't really think of food or a coffee until you get it done, yes, then you are a programmer. You are that uh, sort of gene in you. You have that in you to be a programmer. And if you have to push yourself, you are not.
Programming is all about problem solving. It's something that I think every developer learns at some point, is that programming doesn't actually happen on the keyboard. Programming happens usually in a notebook next to the keyboard. It's all about sort of the architecture. It's all about the planning. And yes, typing on the keyboard and seeing the thing work is great. It's a lot of fun. And yes, debugging will eat up many hours of your life, but it is all about the way you can design and approach a challenge. That's really what the skill of a good developer is. That's certainly what I look for in my team. And that's why, as well, I think that it doesn't matter, to tie back into what we were saying earlier, it doesn't matter what language you choose. I think a lot of people will they'll suffer from that, what do they call it, analysis paralysis, where you're trying to choose the right thing. You're trying to make all these decisions up front. It doesn't matter. Just make a decision. It doesn't matter at all. If you need a decision made, I'll make it for you. Learn JavaScript. If you know nothing, learn JavaScript. Off you go. If you don't like that, learn Python. If you don't like that, well, then maybe programming isn't for you.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I think that was a great conversation. And my friends, obviously, Tom is a very busy man. He couldn't come to our office, for this interview, but we are fortunate to get his time and learn these valuable lessons. So before we go, I think I'll just call upon my colleague here who knows Tom, and we'll just say hi. Liam, we're just finishing the interview. I just thought you might want to say hi. Just say hi. 'Cause you can't hear because I'm in the ears.
Right, yeah.
But
Well,
it's
he
fine.
tends to take care of himself and he's got to say.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to just show you around our offices.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's very
All
fancy.
right. So, yeah, well, expensive too.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but no, I think it was great talking to you, and I think we'll probably arrange some time for a webinar. And friends, Tom is going to be live with you in a few minutes' time, and get ready with your questions, because this is it. This is what you want to hear. You really have aspirations to grow in your software career, and you probably want to know from somebody who does it day in and day out. And as Liam said to me previously, Tom is an inspiration to his generation. Obviously, Tom and Liam, they know each other. So yeah, it would be great to talk to you again, Tom, the webinar live with the students.
Yeah, great, excellent. I'm sure, as I'll say in a couple of minutes, feel free to ask me anything that you want. I will try my very best to give you the best direction that I can.
Fantastic.